Welcome to today's DNA. Today we will discuss 4 articles related to the prelims and the 5th article will be related to the mains one, right. So, first article is Supreme Court verdict on Aadhaar. Second article is on the vice president's election procedure which is conducted today. Third is the two-factor authentication. Fourth article is Personalised Adaptive Learning or PAL software, right. Fifth article is on India-Iran relation. Now let us go through the first article, that is the Supreme Court's verdict on Aadhaar. So what is the background of this news? So what happened in Bihar? There is a Vidhan Sabha election due in coming months, right? Accordingly, Election Commission started special intensive revision that we call SIR or SIR, right? In which Election Commission permitted 11 documents as a valid proof of identity. However, there are certain apprehensions on the exclusion error because of the list of the document, and Aadhaar was not included in it. Accordingly, there was a petition filed in Supreme Court to include Aadhaar as a valid proof of the document, and Supreme Court came out with the directive that yes, Aadhaar can be treated as a 12th valid document for the identity proof, right. It is very important. And Supreme Court also reiterated that as per the statutory status assigned to Aadhaar card under Aadhaar Targeted Delivery of Financial and Other Subsidies, Benefit and Services Act 2016, which was passed as a money bill, it is not a proof of citizenship. Very important that Aadhaar is not a proof of citizenship, but is a proof of only identity. It is very important verdict coming out of the Supreme Court. And accordingly, Supreme Court laid that under the section 23 subclause 4 of the Representation of People Act 1950, Aadhaar can be the valid identity proof, right. And it also had that competent authority as designated by the Election Commission may verify authenticity and genuineness of Aadhaar. So, Election Commission has been given the power to verify the authenticity of the Aadhaar, right. It is very important again. And at the same time, the Kapil Sibal, who is basically petitioning in the behalf of one of the political party RJD, argued that BLOs, that is the booth level officers, are committing gross contempt of the court by refusing to accept Aadhaar, right. So that is why this all thing came into the news. Now what is BLO? So actually BLO are local government or semi government officials, right, and they are appointed under section 13B subclause 2 of RPA. Very important, this can become into the examination because it was in quite in news, right. And who appoints the BLOs? So it is the district election officer, district election officers in consultation with the electorate registration officer, ERO. Very important, it is not the independent call of DEC, but it is in consultation with the ERO of the assembly constituency. And who are the EROs? So basically EROs are statutory authorities usually designated from the subdivisional magistrate. In case you are into the UPSC and you are getting the IAS, or for that matter if you are into the PCS, the person will there is a post we call SDM. So SDM are generally EROs for the Election Commission, right. What is the mandate of ERO? So they are directly responsible for the preparation, revision and maintenance of the electoral roll and other elected related administrative tasks of the assembly constituency. Hence very key position is ERO, right. What is the legal backing given to the ERO? So ERO is appointed under section 13B of the RPA 1950, right. And who is the appointing authority for ERO? So basically it is the Election Commission in consultation with the state government. Very important, again Election Commission take the consent of the state government before appointing any person as a ERO. So these are the important news coming from the SIR news of the Bihar, right. So what is the SIR in fact? So SIR is an electoral roll revision exercise conducted by the ECI, which basically is updating and cleaning the voter list. Few people have migrated out of the Bihar, or people have died, few people have basically registered themselves voter as another place, right. Hence SIR is conducted, which was last conducted in 2003. This can also be camp, right, when it was conducted. And why it is important SIR? Because MHA basically has shown its interest to do the SIR in the Bengal as well as the Assam, in which the elections are due, right? That's why it will keep on coming in the news. That's why you should meaning what is the SIR, what is the power of the election commission for that matter, right? So that's why we are discussing this news. So what are the rest of the 11 document as directed by the election commission? So this is the list given to the basically for the voter list, not that important, but you should be going through it. And the finally 12th is the Aadhaar ID, which is deemed valid for the basically electoral roll. Now the main question is about the exclusion and the inclusion error, and in democracy we know that it is if there is an exclusion error, then it is a grave injustice, because right to vote, right, it is very integral part of the democracy, and Aadhaar enrollment is not 100%. So only considering Aadhaar will also jeopardize the voters list. Hence Aadhaar can be seen as a supplementary and not the sole document for the identity, right? This is my take on all these things. Now try to solve the MCQ which is given on the screen. Hope you will be able to solve it. It is very important because it is related to the BLOs and EROs, right? Questions are not asked from this aspect, but it can be asked, right? Next is on the Vice President's election procedure. So today is the election for the Vice President of India. Earlier we know that Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar ji has resigned under the Article 67A of the Constitution, and he was the third Vice President to do so mid-term after the VV Giri and R Venkatraman. So very important news in one line only, right? So what is the constitutional position for mid-term resignation? So as per Article 67 subclause A, Vice President may resign by submitting a signed letter to the President of India. Who basically Vice President submits this resignation? Who is the authority? It is the President of India, right? And the resignation takes from the immediate effect, right? And there is no provision for the acting Vice President, unlike the President in India. And in absence of the Vice President, whose sole work, official work, is to be the chairman of the Rajya Sabha, the duty is basically done by the whom? None other than the deputy chairman of the Rajya Sabha. Now tell me the name of the deputy chairman of the Rajya Sabha, right, in the comment box. Now let us try to understand the election and tenure after resignation. So as under Article 68, vacancy of the office of the Vice President due to the resignation must be filled ASAP, that is the as soon as possible. It is generally term used in the corporate, right? Do this thing ASAP, do that thing ASAP, right? So there is no fixed tenure or fixed timeline within which the Vice President should be elected. It can be remain vacant for the n number of the year or month or days, right? Because there is no provision under Article 68. This is very important information as well. Unlike the President, there is no 6-month deadline. For the President, there is a 6-month deadline that within the 6 months, the election should be conducted. Now, if the Vice President resigns, what is the initiation of the election process that we are discussing? So basically, after the resignation, it is the Election Commission of India, ECI, right, initiate the election process. Now tell me in the comment box for how many things Election Commission conducts, for how many posts, or for how many particular things Election Commission conduct the basically elections, right? It is basically President, Vice President, for the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. I have given, sorry, for the Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha, Vice President, President, and Vidhan Sabha as well, right? So all these are conducted by whom? None other than the Apna Election Commission of India. Now once Election Commission do this thing, it is the MHA which notifies the vacancy. Accordingly, Election Commission of India under the Presidential and Vice President Election Act 1952 notify the election, right? And followed by the notification, there is a appointment of the returning officer, and this time it is the PC Modi, who is the Secretary General of the Rajya Sabha, has been designated as a RO by the Election Commission of India for the post of the Vice President of election, right? Now what is the statutory timeline? Once notified, the election process must span a minimum of 32 days. And what is the composition of electoral college for the President of the for the Vice President of India? So electoral college includes all, means elected as well as nominated members of the Lok Sabha as well as the Rajya Sabha. Means there is no Rajya Sabha, there is no Vidhan Sabha member who will vote, unlike the President of India, right? So only the Rajya Sabha member and Lok Sabha member nominated or elected are eligible to vote in the vice president's election. Right, this is the information that you should be knowing, and this is the infographics which beautifully shows the process from day 0 to day 32, right, and this is the day 32, I believe, after the notification, and vice president of India is to be elected today. Now we'll have to look for the comparative analysis of the vice president of India and vice president of the United States of America, right. Why? Because this year as well there was a question on the pardoning power of the president of India vis-a-vis pardoning power of the president of the USA. So accordingly we are covering this thing. So what is the key role of the vice president in India? He serves as a ex officio chairman of the Rajya Sabha. This is the key role. At the same time, in United States, the vice president serves as the president of the Senate, which is the upper house for the USA, right, and they participate in the Senate proceeding and is a constitutional member. We can see the J.D. Vance, who is the vice president of India, who was on the state visit on India. On the day of his visit, Pahalgam attack occurred, right. Now, do the vice president of India have voting right? Yes, he has voting right, but only in the case of the tie, that we call casting vote under Article 100, right. Again, in the United States, the vice president may cast a tie breaking vote in the Senate, but otherwise does not vote in general, right. This has occasionally shaped the legislative decision in the United States as well. Now, do vice president is considered as successor of the president of India? No. They work for the interim period. At the same time, in the case of the death of or resignation of otherwise or removal of the president of the United States, it is the vice president who fills the vacancy, which is very important distinction between the vice president of India and the vice president of the USA. Now, what is the role? We have seen vice president of India is only superfluous. However, the vice president of the US is a very constitutional key role, right, and is also part of the key decision making bodies, right. How vice president of India is removed? With a resolution in the Rajya Sabha only. At the same time, United States vice president is impeached by Congress for a treason, bribery or other high crimes and misdemeanor, right. Now, what is the election mechanism? Indirect election is done by the electorate in India. Members constitute all members of the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. I am repeating it, right. At the same time, the vice president of the USA is elected jointly by the president through direct national wide elections by the electoral college. That is the key difference. Hope you like the difference between the vice president of India and vice president of USA. Now try to solve this question, which is again very interesting one. Next news on the personalized adaptive learning, that is the PAL, right. So why it is in news? So an evaluation study led by the Nobel laureate Michael Karmer found that PAL software in Andhra Pradesh government schools doubled the student learning rate. We often quote this as a report in which we talk about the learning outcome of the school going children, right. So what Andhra Pradesh has done, they have basically given its student a kind of the software which is customized. That's why we know is personalized adaptive learning, PAL, right. So what is the context of all these things? So basically what happened yesterday was basically International Day of the Literacy 2025 with the theme promoting literacy in the digital era, right, in which our education minister Shri Dharmendra Pradhan ji highlighted pivotal role of digital technology in enabling reading, writing, numeracy and lifelong learning skills across the country, right. Accordingly, he announced that Himachal Pradesh became the 4th state to achieve full functional literacy after the Tripura, Mizoram and Goa, right. And before that, UT of Ladakh was declared as the first union territory to be fully literate in June 2024, right. Accordingly, the use of PAL software, that is the personalized adaptive learning software, can be considered as a game changer or force multiplier for the learning outcome of the school going children to achieve the full functional literacy, in fact, right. Now, what is PAL? So it is a personalized adaptive learning software which adjusted content and assessment to a student individual level. For example, if I am weak in terms of maths or STEM, right, so the PAL software will recognize this and they will curate content according to my needs. That is very important, because what we do generally, we provide the generic content to everyone and the content is not customized one. Now PAL software will customize the content, which will be tailored content, which will progress track and which will support individual student to achieve the functional literacy or the learning outcome, right? That's why it's very important, right? Which is initially started for the class 6-9 student. Now it is fully functional in 1200 plus government school in the Andhra state, right? Aim of this entire program is to address learning gap, improve outcome by the personalized instructions, right? Now, accordingly, the evaluation study was done by the various institutions, not that important. What is important is the key finding of the entire exercise, how it is helping the student to achieve the better learning outcome. So, as per the finding, per double learning rate compared to the student not using it, right? Second, average learning gain was 2.3 times higher, right? Equivalent year of schooling was for the girls 2.31 years and for the boys it was 1.51 years. Now you can use all this data to just support your argument of the use of digital technology in improving the basically customized content and learning outcome, right? What are the uses in learning? Basically it was very interesting to understand that girls are using it more because they have the lesser access to the school and college, I believe. That's why they are relying more upon all these kind of the thing, and that's why it is very beautiful thing as well to understand, right? So this was all about the PAL, that is the personalized adaptive learning. What are the various schemes basically initiated by the government of India in order to improve the learning outcome or the literacy? So at the universal education is there, quality improvement, there is an inclusion scheme as well, right? There is Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, Ramsa is there, Nishtha is there, PM Shri is there, NEXT. Those are multiple such programs initiated by the government. You can have a look on all these things, and you can basically write a good answer, or you can answer MCQs based of this topic. Accordingly, you will have to solve the question which is given in the screen. Just read the question and give the answer in the comment box. Next news is on the two-factor authentication, 2FA. We often use it, right? And there is time OTP as well. The news came into the one of the newspaper, that is the Hindu. Now, what is two-factor authentication and why we are reading it? Basically, this is basically contextual for the cybersecurity, internal security, as well as for the awareness purposes. So two-factor authentication adds a second step to the logging. So what happens whenever we log in? So there is a first factor, that is we will use our username and the password, right? It can be 1 2 3 4 5, usually done by the rest of most of our elder parents and all, right? It's a very commonly used password as per the research as well. And then there will be login. However, if you want to protect your device from the cyber hacking or cyber breach, use two-factor authentication. I use it in most of my devices, right? So what happens whenever you will log into some other place in your personal device, there one code will come and you will have to enter this code to log into the Gmail or any kind of the basically web server thing or anything, right? So that is, we call it two-factor authentication. So now what is OTP and TOTP? So OTP is a one-time password, which is a short code valid only for the one login attempt, right? We generally use during the basically the use of the Bheem and all, right? However, time-based OTP in which code changes every 30 seconds. For the 30 second, code will vary, otherwise you will have to fill the code, otherwise it will vanish, right? And both your app and the server like Gmail uses the same secret key plus time to generate the same code. That is very unique with respect to the OTP and TOTP, right? And how this TOTP works? So when you set up a two-factor authentication, the service shares a secret key with your app, like for example Gmail, right, or YouTube. Time is divided into 30-second interval, right? An app plus server uses secret key plus time counter with a formula to generate a code. Accordingly, result is a 6-digit number which is valid for the 30 seconds. Very important. Now, what is the role of hash function HMAC, right? So, a hash function, hash is this, converts any input into fixed length output, and hash based message authentication code mixes a secret key with the data for extra security. TOTP uses HMAC SHA-256 to make codes unpredictable. That's why it's very hard to crack, because it's very layered as well as a secure one, and that is why the time OTP is considered more secure, because secret key is stored only in your device and server, right? For example, the server and your device, so like it can be YouTube or it can be Gmail or anything, right? Codes expire quickly, only 30 seconds is given for the code, and huge number space makes guess nearly impossible, and it is very stronger than the password alone, right? So that's why we should be using the two-factor authentication to make our devices secure, right? Now, based on above information, try to solve the question which is displayed on the screen. A very good article was basically written by the basically ambassador of the Islamic Republic of Iran with reference to the India-Iran relations, right? And accordingly, we are discussing the central theme of the India-Iran relation, and it's very interesting as well. After the SCO recently conducted SCO meet, basically India, or I will say in fact SCO as a group, condemned the attack on Iran by the USA and as well as by the Israel, right, which is very interesting development. Accordingly, a bonhomie kind of the feeling is emerging between India and Iran, given the fact that Iran is very a stable source of the energy resources for India. So, coming time is we can basically rely on Iran for the energy security and all. Accordingly, this article will discuss the various facets of the India-Iran relation, right. So, let us try to understand the background of the India-Iran relations. So, what happens? India and Iran are the world's oldest and richest civilization, and have for centuries shaped global culture, which is very important. And both the civilization valued peace and avoided war. We are peace loving country. We never indulges ourselves into the war, right? Fighting only in the defense against any aggression. It is very important that we both countries have similar traits, right? Even when we are defeated militarily, we should be accepting we are from the ancient time till modern time, we have been defeated militarily. Recently was the 1965 defeat, right, vis-a-vis China, right. So, sorry, 1962 defeat vis-a-vis China, right. So, what happened, when we are defeated militarily, our cultural influence was so profound that they shaped the conquerors. So, we have changed the victors in place of changing ourselves, we have changed the victors, right, imparting their knowledge of statecraft, governance, literature, philosophy, art and architecture to them, right. After the arrival of Islam, this is the basically argument given by the ambassador of the Iran to the India, that after the arrival of Islam, Iran's civilizational value continued in a new form, while India, recognized as the oldest continuous civilization, was further enriched by the Islamic influence. And definitely we have the certain Islamic influence in our language, in our architect, in our food in fact, right. So, that is why there is a continuity in terms of the India-Iran relation. Now, we will try to discuss about the civilizational link between the India and the Iran. So, basically Farsi or Persian is recognized as one of the classical languages in India, highlighting the cultural closeness between the India and the Iran, right. The people of India and Iran originate from the Indo-Iranian linguistic and ethno-cultural group that we call Aryan, sharing common Aryan roots reflected in language, religion and tradition. For example, the word Hindu is itself derived from the old Persian pronunciation of Sindhu, right, which was there for the Indus river, illustrating deep historical connection, right. Also, archaeological evidence shows that extensive trade and cultural exchanges between ancient India, which was the Indus Valley civilization or Harappan civilization, and ancient Persia, right, including share artifact, precious metals and goods like ivory and lapis lazuli, right. There is evidences of the Iranian and Indian lapis lazuli having found in the different places. Now, Indian Iranian culture and language, which is Persian, have profoundly influenced Indian classical languages, including Hindi, Urdu and Marathi, right. Religious and philosophical currents often flowed mutually. Zoroastrians from Iran influenced Indian thought. You might be knowing person like Tata, right. So, they are basically Zoroastrian people originating from the Iran itself, and they have influenced India's economy, India's culture a lot, right. While India's religious tradition like Buddhism also had historical impact on the Persian and Central Asian regions. This is a mutual respect, mutual connection and mutual exchange of the ideas, religion, languages between India and the Iran, right. Architecturally, monuments like Taj Mahal reflect Indo-Persian art. So, and it's very aesthetic as well as basically a symbol of tradition, love and peace, right. In recent time, the Swami Vivekanand Culture Center was opened in Tehran in 2013, fostering cultural exchanges. So, there is a continuity from the ancient to the present time, there is a continuity between the India-Iran relation, right. Now, this was about the culture. Now, move to the geopolitical aspect of the India-Iran relation, right. Now, in the modern time, formal diplomatic relation between India and Iran started in 1950. After that, a milestone can be considered as a Tehran Declaration of 2001, when our late Prime Minister of India, Sri Vajpayee, visited Tehran, right, which set new tone for the cooperation between two countries. And both countries are member of various multilateral forums like the United Nations, non-aligned movements, SCO, which gives India basically bargaining power vis-a-vis other country, in fact I will say, right. Now, this was the geopolitical significance of India-Iran relation. Now, what is the geostrategic significance now? So, Iran's geographic location is critical for India. Why? Because it is considered as a gateway to the what? Central Asia, and Central Asia is very rich in terms of the oils, greenery and all the natural resources. That is why we can't basically ignore Iran, and its strategic position makes it's a gateway for the Central Asia, and that is why it's a key plank of India's look west policy as well, right. Now, in Iran's position in Indian Ocean region, IOR, makes it very important maritime partner as well. Not only the like land partner, we are also cooperating on the maritime fronts as well. Chabahar port developed by India basically offers an alternative route to the Afghanistan and Central Asia, right, bypassing Pakistan, which is very important, right, our favorite neighbor. We are bypassing them by basically developing the Chabahar port, right. It also counters China's Gwadar port, which is part of CPEC, right. Now, partnership with Iran helps India balance China and Pakistan together while keeping strategic autonomy despite US sanction, which is a very unique basically strategy of India, monkey balancing all the relation. That is why India is considered ideal swing state, right, ideal swing state. Now, what are the geo-economic importance of the Iran? So, trade. So, India exports rice, tea, pharmaceuticals and import dry fruits, very famous dry fruits from Iran, right, chemicals and oil obviously from Iran. However, in recent time there was an embargo on the India in terms of the oil import, hence it is not done by the India as of now. However, India is the Iran's top rice supplier, right. So, they eat biryani made out of the Indian rice. In terms of the energy, Iranian oil was a key part of the India's energy security until sanction disrupted imports, right. The Farzad B gas field was discovered by Indian companies, but there are certain issues in of late, right. China is quite interested in developing these blocks, hence there was a stalemate in terms of that thing, right. And there is a currency swap agreement in terms of the payment in rupees for Indian oil saved India's foreign exchange, right. Connectivity in terms of the international north-south transport corridors, India tried to link Iran via basically Russia and Europe. So, if you want to go to the basically Russia or Europe, you will have to basically go through Iran, the central plank of the India-Iran relation, right. So, in terms of the defense and security, we do not have any bilateral basically exercises, be it military or naval or otherwise. However, we are coopting on the various multilateral exercises, right. Accordingly, we are cooperating in terms of the counter-terrorism, particularly against the Pakistan backed group, because we are basically affected by the terrorism which is backed by the Pakistan, because we will have to understand It is the Pakistan which share common boundary with the India as well as the Iran, right, and we both are affected by the terrorism, right. Now, both share concern about Afghanistan's stability, especially after the US's withdrawal, because in case Afghanistan, which is considered a heart of the Asia or heart of the in fact world, is unstabilized, it will have repercussion on the Iran, which is its immediate neighbor, as well as we are the immediate neighbor of the Afghanistan, right. We share 94-kilometer long boundary official with Afghanistan, right, which lies in the present day POK. So, given all these things, the stability in the Afghanistan as well as stability in the Iran, both are important. We have seen recently the USA doing the midnight hammer, or the Israel attacking the nuclear plant of the Iran. They have termed it the rising lion exercise or the operation, right. It impacted the Iran's sovereignty. Accordingly, we have condemned the attack by the America as well as the Israel on the Iran, right. So, what are the key challenges? First is the sanction. So, US already sanctioned and impose restrictions on the import of the oil, right, or by the export of the Iranian oil, which is basically impacting India's energy security as well as impacting Iran's on economy badly, right. Second is energy dependency. India must balance assessing Iranian oil and maintaining ties with the US and other suppliers, right. So, we will have to draw a fine balance in order to gain access to the cheap oil, which is our basically immediate need. Now, there are regional differences as well. For example, Iran is rapidly tilting towards the China, right, and there was recently 25-year cooperation deal with the China in terms of the development of the BRI. At the same time, India is maintaining close tie with the Israel. Not only that, there is a very interesting basically triangle. For example, Iran, which is having bad relation with the Israel as well as the Saudi or USA or UAE, right, are having very good relation with the India, right. So, India is friend of all. अभी तो थोड़ा USA के साथ खराब relation चल रहा है, but otherwise we are friends with every country. At the same time, Iran is having a very antagonistic relation with the Israel or for that matter Saudi, right. So, we will have to basically again monkey balance the relation of our immediate neighbors, our extended neighbors, our strategic partners vis-a-vis Iran, right. Hence, there are various challenges to the India-Iran relation. Now, what are the security issues? Terrorism emanating from the Pakistan affect both, but coordination is difficult due to the different priorities for the India as well as the Iran, right. Now, there is a Farzad B gas dispute, which is also one of the issue between the India and Iran, but we hope that we will be able to solve it amicably, right. And Iran stands at litmus test of India's look west policy. If our relation with the Iran is improving, if you are basically coupling with the Iran in terms of the economy, culture, diplomacy and other aspects, it will basically reinforce India's look west policy. So, what is the way ahead, right? First is the diplomatic engagement. We will have to do more high level visit. Recently, Iranian Prime Minister visited India, but they visited Pakistan as well. So, we will have to engage Iran, which is considered as a middle power, right, in the region, right. Second is the economic cooperation. We will have to definitely push for the INSTC, or we will have to look new opportunities in Iran. We will have to deliver things on the time. We will have to explore basically more natural resources in the Iran, right. It will help us to boost the relation between India and Iran, right. Now, in terms of the energy, we will have to secure stable long term oil and gas contract, and we can start joint venture in the renewables, right. These are the suggestions, right. In terms of security, we can enhance the cooperation. At least we can start the counter terrorism basically exercises which can benefit both the country mutually, right. In terms of the connectivity, we will have to work with the Russia and Central Asia to upgrade INST infrastructure, and we will have to balance our diplomacy vis-a-vis Iran, vis-a-vis our strategic partner Israel, and Saudi as well, who is a very close partner to India, right. Since Iran is a gateway to the India's look west policy, we will have to basically strengthen our relation with the Iran in order to basically increase our footprint in the Central Asia. So, what is the concluding remark? So, as per our honorable diplomat of the Iran, with the civilizational wisdom, strategic independence and constructive partnership, Tehran and New Delhi can give the changing world a new order, which is the concluding remark. So, I hope you enjoyed this discussion on the India-Iran relation. In case you are able to understand the concept clearly, kindly solve this subjective question which is shown on the screen. Question says, analyze the evolution of India-Iran relations in the contemporary geopolitical context. Discuss the importance of the Chabahar port project for the India's strategic and economic interest. What are the key challenges faced by the India in its bilateral ties with Iran, and how we should basically India balance its relation with Iran and other regional global powers. It's a very long question, but again it is all encompassing, it is comprehensive one. So that's all on today's DNA. Thank you.